liberalization that has been happening, like in 2018, they have made the reporting by AD banker to Reserve Bank of India as the completely online. So with the more and more technology also, and more the world becoming the global village, the investments regulations also, the overseas regulations also have been getting liberalized. So when we talk about the overseas direct investment, what are the regulations that govern the overseas direct investment? So overseas direct investment is governed by mainly the regulation, foreign exchange management, transfer or issue of any foreign security regulations 2014 for white notification, which was issued by RBI, wide notification July 7, 2004. And corresponding to that, there is a master direction on direct investment by residents in India in joint venture, wholly on subsidiary, or wholly on subsidiary abroad, updated as on 18th of September 2019. There are these are the base governing regulations that govern the ODI investments in India. That means how the person resident in India, how the Indian entity, how Indian party will make an investment outside India, if it can make an investment outside India, and if it can make the investment outside India, it shall be governed by the regulation, which is foreign exchange management, transfer or issue of any foreign security regulations 2004. Now this regulation is divided into various regulation and predominantly three parts, and and also master direction is divided into three parts, that is journal. Section B talks about direct investment outside India, and section 3 which talks about other investment in foreign security. Now, as we had seen yesterday as well, that anything under FEMA, first it prohibits and then it's allowed. First is prohibits that nothing shall be done. There is nothing shall be done except as otherwise stated in the Act, rule, regulations. So the foreign investment, the overseas direct investment cannot be done at all except by following the regulation which has been specified in ODI regulations. So now onwards, I'll be seeing this together as ODI regulations. So what does it say? That in terms, the regulation 6 of FEMA 120, it says that as amended from time to time, Indian party has been permitted to make investment, undertake financial commitment in overseas joint venture, wholly on subsidiary as per ceiling prescribed by Reserve Bank from time to time. So what is this? It is the facilitating, it is giving the permission to Indian party to make investment outside India. So it is facilitating Indian part, so it is giving the permission to make investment outside India is coming from rule regulation 6. With effect from July 3, 2014, it has been decided that financial commitment exceeding, so will be seeing it here. So when we see it, there are a few terms that we can see here. One is that Indian party has been permitted to make investment, undertake financial commitment in overseas joint venture and wholly on subsidiary. Let us see what is being allowed. It is allowed that Indian party, first of all, who is allowed? Indian party is allowed to make investment in joint venture and wholly on subsidiary. What exactly is joint venture? So joint venture means a foreign entity registered or incorporated in accordance with the laws and regulations of the host country in which Indian party makes investment. comparison to that, the wholly owned subsidiary means an entity which is registered and incorporated as per the laws of host country, that is a country outside India, and whose entire share capital is held by Indian party, Now we see here that the word Indian party is being said again and again. The word Indian party is used again and again. We will go on to see what exactly is Indian party, and we'll see that. So what we are seeing here is that Regulation 6 of ODI regulations gives the permission to Indian party to invest in joint venture or wholly owned subsidiary. Now, besides all, who can invest, how much can he invest, in what manner can it be invested, what funds can be used, if there are any restrictions, what are the obligations around it. So this is all what forms part of the ODI regulations, and this is all which has been specified under ODI regulations, and we will be seeing that going forward. Who can invest, what can be invested. So direct investment outside India basically constitutes various things like route of investment, net worth and financial commitment, guarantee by Indian company, obligation of Indian company, method of funding, restructuring of balance sheet. We're going to see it in all detail. So what we are seeing here, who can invest, how he can invest, how much he can invest, and what are his obligations once he has invested. What are the various routes that are available to the Indian party? So investment outside India can be made in the following manner: in the journal route, as automatic route, and under government route. So it can be made in journal route, automatic route, and government route. Let's go on and see what are these various routes. So the journal routes, which is there, it talks about the investment which can be made generally, and which nothing needs to be done. There is no approval, there is no intimation, it can be done. So as we know, there are three out of the funds held in RFC account. If the investment outside India is made out of funds that are held in RFC account, or as bonus shares on existing holding of the foreign currency shares, when not permanently resident in India, out of their foreign currency resources outside India, Now, what exactly do we mean by these things? Let us go on and see. So we are seeing that the investment can be made in the journal route, and it can be made through automatic route, and it can be made through approval route. Under journal route, if the investment has been made through the funds which are held in RFC account. Now we had seen under the current account transactions rule as well, that whatever funds are held in RFC account, and we had also seen in the deposit regulation that whatever funds are held in RFC account of an individual, whatever funds are held in RFC account, those funds can be utilized for any purpose whatsoever. Therefore, the RFC funds can be utilized for acquisition of foreign securities as well. Now, this can also be made for a bonus share on existing holding of foreign currency shares. So if there is it can be made under the journal permission. If there are bonus shares that are issued on the existing holding, it can be done under the journal permission. Now, there is a third category what comes in journal permission. What it says that when not permanently resident in India out of their foreign currency resources outside India. Now, what exactly is this term not permanently resident in India? why I wanted to devote time here on not permanently resident here, because what we saw that either there are residents or there are non-residents under FEMA. Now, what is this category of not permanently resident in India? What is this category? So this category of non-permanently resident in India, it is for the specific purpose only that this term not permanently resident in India is used, and it is defined under various regulations to mean that not permanently resident means a person resident in India for employment for a specific period and for a specific job during which it does not exceed the period which does not exceed 3 years. So this category of people who are there in on employment in India, and because of their period of stay and because they are in employment in India, they are becoming resident. However, they are not permanently resident in India. So for that category of how they are residents, as per the definition per se, they are resident. So to exclude that category of people who are becoming resident, although they are not resident, they are not permanently resident in India, there have been definition given at various places depending on the use in that regulation, that not permanently resident in India shall have the following benefits. They can possess the foreign currency, they can remit the salary as after deduction of taxes and their dues like a PF and all. So the conditions that are other ways applicable to person to the residents are not applicable to person who is not permanently resident in India. Now this person who is not permanently resident in India, he is becoming resident because he is in employment and he is actually holding his foreign currency resources outside India. So whatever he is buying out of those resources, whatever he is buying out of those resources shall come under the general permission for acquisition of shares in the foreign entity. So making the overseas direct investment. So that whatever acquisition he is doing from the his foreign currency resources, that shall come under the general permission. So this category of uh, people who shall form the not permanently resident in India. So it has been defined under foreign exchange management, remittance of asset regulations. It has been defined under possession and retention of foreign currency regulations. So a lot of places it has been defined. Now going back, we are discussing the various ways in which the investment can be made outside India by Indian party. We are going to discuss Indian party. So there are various ways. We saw through journal permission, through automatic route, or through approval route. Now under automatic route, the permission can be the investment can be made if the investment falls under the prescribed limits by the RBI. So if the investment is falling under the prescribed limits by the RBI, in that case the investment can be made under automatic route. And if the investment is not falling under the prescribed limit by the RBI, it shall be investment under the approval route. Now, what is this automatic route? What are these limits that have been specified? So this limit is 400% of the net worth of the Indian party. If the investment is made till 400% of the net worth of Indian party, it can be made under the automatic route. So we are going to see it later as well in much detail. For right now, it is enough to understand that under automatic route, investment can be made if it is falling within the limits that has been specified by the Reserve Bank of India. However, there is a caveat out here. That if the investment is exceeding 1 billion USD, if the investment is exceeding 1 billion USD, in that case the prior approval of RBI is required, even if the total financial commitment of Indian party is within the eligible limit under automatic route. So we're going to discuss what is financial commitment. So what it says that an investment can be made under the automatic route if the financial commitment of Indian party is within the prescribed limits as specified by RBI. However, if the investment is more than 1 billion, even if it is within the prescribed limit as specified by RBI, the approval from Reserve Bank of India shall be required. Any other investment can be made under approval route only. What do we mean by automatic route and what do we mean by approval route? Under automatic route, there is only intimation that is required to go to Reserve Bank of India through application to AD Bank. However, under approval route, the prior approval of Reserve Bank of India is required. So under automatic route, only intimation is required to Reserve Bank of India within 30 days of making the investment. Under approval route, the application is required to Reserve Bank of India for taking the prior permission. Now this application is submitted through AD Bank, and then which the AD Bank in turn submits the application with the specific recommendation to the Reserve Bank of India, and Reserve Bank of India, it is submitted to the Amar building, which is there in the fort area. With the documents, the documents that are required to be submitted with the application under approval routes are as follows. I'll leave it for you to read it. It's just for the comprehensiveness of the presentation that I have placed it here. So there was a question last time that whether the application, ODI application, is required to be made online or it is required to be made offline. So right now, the online application is required to be made by the RBI only. The Indian party to AD Bank, files in physical form, and AD Bank to RBI files in OID application, which is an online platform which is given to the AD Bank bankers. Now coming to the investment outside India, so once we are seeing that investment outside India can be made in 3 ways: automatic, journal, and approval route. And we saw that there are restrictions on making the investment outside India. So let us go on and understand what exactly do we mean by making the investment outside India. So what exactly do we mean by making investment outside India? Just to bring the clarity here, there can be 2 ways in which investment can be made: direct investment outside India and otherwise. So we'll see otherwise very briefly because that is very limited, that is allowed by RBI. So it has been specified, so we'll see it. Before we start with direct investment outside India, let us see what are the other investments that can be made for which. So the investments can be, so we will see that briefly, that what are the investments that can be made other than the direct investment. Those are very limited. Now coming to direct investment outside India, what exactly do we mean and what exactly are we discussing here? So the regulation 2E of ODI regulations defines direct investment outside India to mean investment by way of contribution to capital or subscription to memorandum of association of foreign entity by way of purchase of existing shares of foreign entity, either by market purchase or private placement or stocks exchange, but does not include portfolio investment. So what do we see here? That direct investment by Indian party into contribution to the capital, that they are acquiring the existing shares. There is a contribution to the capital that is happening. The acquisition is by contribution to the capital, or it is by subscription to memorandum of association, or it is by subscription to memorandum of association. So what we have come across, that people think that when it is a investment outside India, it is necessary that money has to flow. Money has to flow outside India. So there is no requirement of that the money has to flow outside India for making it an ODI investment, for making it an ODI investment, even if there is a subscription to memorandum and article of association and there is no investment, there is no money that is flowing outside India. In that case also, the investment shall be construed as the ODI investment. So we had done a compounding case under with this investor, this director of Indian company. He went on visit to Singapore and he opened a company through a Singapore legal consultant. Now the Singapore local consultant then opened a company with the initial capital being charged to the Indian company in the professional fees bill. Now the Indian company subscribed to the memorandum and article or article of association of the company in Singapore. Also, although on the face of it there was no outflow of money as the ODI, however, since the company subscribed to the memorandum and article of the association of the Singapore company, it was construed as the ODI investment. It can also be made, the direct investment outside India can also be made through the market purchase, private placement, or through stock exchange. The direct investment outside India does not include portfolio investment. So the investment does not include portfolio investment. Portfolio investment, it has not been defined. However, it should mean the investment which is not a direct investment, in which the strategic investment is not desired and it is done only from the purchase, from the view of the ups and downs of the stock market. That may be considered as a portfolio investment. Only the Indian listed companies are permitted to make portfolio investment, and that is also up to only 50% of their net worth as on the date of last balance sheet, that they can make the investment. So we are seeing that how the investment can be made in the foreign entity, or how an acquisition of shares of the foreign equity from foreign entity can take place by Indian party. So we are seeing that direct investment includes include capital contribution or subscription to MOA. However, it does not include portfolio investment. Portfolio investment is only allowed to be undertaken by the listed companies, and listed companies have to disclose, have to file form that is annexure 3 to the master reporting form, master reporting direction, and it talks about whatever investment has been made by the Indian listed company. As you can say, that that was the net amount of investment that was held outside India, opening balance and outflow, inflow, and the closing balance. So this needs to be done by the this form needs to be done by the listed company on making the portfolio investment. There, what are the sectors in which Indian parties are not allowed to make the investment? What are these sectors? There are certain sectors in which the Indian party cannot make the investment at all. So Indian party, they cannot make the investment into real estate. It cannot make the investment into banking business without the approval of RBI. And also it cannot make the investment into financial services which is subjected to conditions. So in case of Indian entity wants to invest into financial services, it will have to comply with the conditions which we will see later. There was a clarification that was issued by RBI in 2013, very relevant for us to see here, wherein it has prohibited that there cannot be any direct or indirect equity participation by an Indian party in the financial products linked to Indian rupee. So there was a lot of speculation happening through this financial product linked to Indian rupee. So no investment can be made in the overseas entity which has the direct or indirect participation by Indian entity which is offering financial products that are linked to Indian rupee. The products like you have non-deliverable trades involving foreign currency, rupee exchange rates, and stock indices linked to Indian market. So you need the prior approval from the RBI to make investments in these sectors. Who can make the investment? We've been discussing Indian party. Who can make the investment? So it is Indian party can make the investment, trust and society. And
వాళ్ళది ఎలా ఉంటుందంటే
what
వాళ్ళిద్దరూ పర్ఫెక్ట్ కప్పులు,
exactly is Indian
పిల్లలు
party?
కరెక్ట్ పర్ఫెక్ట్ పిల్లలు,
is included in the
వాడు
Indian party?
పర్ఫెక్ట్ మళ్ళీ.
Indian party means the company incorporated outside India. It means the partnership firm registered under Partnership Act 1932, limited liability partnership, and also includes any other entity in India as may be notified by the Reserve Bank of India. So it includes effectively all the entities, be it the partnership entity, be it the your company, LLP, resident individuals, or registered trust and society that we'll see later. So effectively all the entities can make the investment outside India. One thing that you may like to notice here is that when we are talking about the partnership entity, it is only the registered partnership entities that can make the investment outside India. If the entity is not registered, if the partnership firm is not registered, it needs to get registered, or it can invest with the prior approval from the Reserve Bank of India. Resident individuals, they have been notified as on with the APIDR circular dated August 5, 2013, that they can make investment outside India out of the funds held in RFC account, or as the bonus they can receive funds on the existing holding of foreign currency, or when they are categorized as not permanently resident in India, they can make the investment outside India. One thing to be noted here is that the investment by resident, when the investment by resident Indian is getting made, it shall be limited to the amount that is allowed under liberalized remittance scheme. We had seen that liberalized remittance scheme is a window that is given to a resident through which it can make investment outside India in all permitted current and capital account transactions. So under that LRS, he can also make an investment into the shares, equity shares, and capital instruments, or as allowed under the ORDI regulations. He can make the investment. And general permission is also given. Whatever he has acquired, he can also sell those shares. The direct investment by trust. The direct investment by trust can be made only if it is a registered trust and it follows the following criteria. So the criteria is that the trust should be registered under Indian Trust Act. The trust deed permits the proposed investment overseas, and the proposed investment should be approved by trustee, and the AD category 1 banks is satisfied that the trust is the KYC compliant and is engaged in the bona fide activity. The trust has been in existence at least for a period of 3 years, and trust is not under the adverse notice of any regulatory enforcement agency like Directorate of Enforcement, CBI, etc. So these are the parameters which a trust has to satisfy. Similarly, society can also make the investment if the society is registered under Societies Registration Act 1860 and along with all these conditions. So what we are seeing here is that when we talk about Indian party, as such, Indian party includes the company, LLP, partnership, registered partnership, or as may be notified, and then the investment can be made by trust, society, the resident individuals in India. So these are the people who can make investment outside India. Also, there are a few other categories that had been notified, that is AIF, that alternative investment funds registered with SEBI, or domestic VCF which are registered with SEBI. They can make investment outside India into equity or equity linked instrument up to the overall limit of 500 million USD. So these are the investments, these are the parties which can make the investment. Let's have an overview once again. So Indian party, registered trust and society under RBI approval, resident individuals. Resident individuals can make the investment through proprietary concern or registered partnership firm with the approval of RBI. If it is proprietary concern, then also with the approval of RBI, and otherwise through these modes. So ODI by resident individuals, as it is prohibited for everyone. For resident individuals as well, it is prohibited that they cannot make the investment in real estate, banking and financial services. They can make the investment in permitted sectors in two ways: automatic route and approval route. Under automatic route, they can make the investment for the acquisition and setting up of joint venture and WOS if they are doing the bona fide business activity. There is no step down subsidiary that can be there for a resident individual. There are valuation that needs to be followed, and they can get the shares in lieu of directors' remuneration or in lieu of the consideration for professional fees. However, everything has to be within the limit of LRS. If it is not within the limit of LRS, the approval from Reserve Bank of India is required. What has come to our notice, and this is more often than not, the non-compliances that is done by the resident individuals. So they will, and mostly with the countries like Dubai, which is the trading hub, these people go and open a company there or make the investment in the free trade zones of Dubai in the individual capacity as promoter, under thinking that this investment can be made under LRS. So even if the investment is there under LRS, if it is an ODI investment, if the investment is there in the equity instruments, if there is an acquisition of shares, in that case, the ODI regulation needs to be followed in comprehensiveness. It needs to be followed fully. That means from ODI will go all the requirements, which we will see later on, that what are the obligation of Indian party when it makes the foreign investment outside India. In that case, all the regulations get applicable to the resident individual as well. If a resident individual is making a contribution to the equity capital of a company outside India, in that case, it has to follow all the ODI guide, all the regulation all the ODI regulation, which calls for filing forms like ODI, form ODI, then form APR, annual performance report. So all those compliances needs to be done by the resident individual as well. Now, how much can be invested? Who can invest? Under what route can he invest? Now, how much can he invest? We saw that in case of resident, he can invest till USD 2,50,000. Now, what about the Indian party? How much an Indian party can invest into the joint venture or wholly owned subsidiary? So an Indian party can invest up to 400%. An Indian party can invest up to 400% of the net worth of the Indian company, of the Indian party. We can say it an Indian company as well. So an Indian party can invest as the 400% of its net worth. So what does it say? It says that the financial commitment of an Indian party should not exceed 400% of the net worth of the Indian party. Now there are few terms that we need to see here. The term like financial commitment, net worth. What exactly does it mean from the point of view of the investment outside India? There are few things that are there in this, is that 400% of the net worth as on the last audited balance sheet date. As on the last audited balance sheet date, this is one of the specific limit. This is one of the calculation. Then it says that balances held in EEFC account and proceeds of ADR and GDR. So the limit of investment prescribed by RBI in that case get increased to include also the balances that are held in EEFC account and the foreign currency funds raised through raising of ADR or GDR. So it is the limit is actually the limit of overseas investment is 400% of net worth plus balances held in EEFC account plus foreign currency funds raised through ADR or GDR. So that's a maximum, that's the limit that has been set by RBI till which the investment can be made in the WOS or joint venture by the Indian party. Now, what is this? This calculation? Let us see it here. That what is the amount of investment that can be made by the Indian party or Indian company? Net worth of ABCN is an Indian company. Its net worth is 100. The balances which are held in EFC account is 100. The proceeds of foreign currency funds raised through ADR and GDR is 100. Now, what is the investment that he can make in the overseas entity? What is the investment he can make in the overseas entity? It shall be 600 million, or you can take million or crore. So 400% of 100, then plus 100 plus 100, it makes it that it can take to 600% of the net worth. Now this 400%, as we had seen that RBI prescribes this limit, and it keeps on changing. It keeps on altering this limit of 400% depending on the foreign exchange position of India. So of late, in 2014, they had reduced it to 100%. Now again, they had increased it to 400%. Let us see this example. PQR is a company that is incorporated under Companies Act 2013 as on 12 January 2015. It proposes to set up a company in UK under automatic route in April 2015. whether such an investment by PQR can be made under automatic route. Now, what does the regulation says that the investment can be made up to 400% of net worth of the company as on the date of last audited balance sheet. Now, what is the last audited balance sheet? This company doesn't have the last audited balance sheet. However, if it can get done the last audited balance sheet, there is no period for which the audit has been undertaken. It is specified, so they can get done the audit for the period from January 2015 to March 2015, and they can get done the audit. They can invest into the company in UK. Now moving ahead, we had seen that the company can invest up to 400% of net worth. What does actually the net worth means? The net worth means, as per the ODI regulation, the net worth means the paid up capital of the company plus the reserves and surplus of the company. The paid up capital of the company and the reserves and surplus of the company. And we have seen that the total financial commitment should not exceed 400%. Now, this facility is not available to the partnership firms. Also, the partnership firm net worth cannot be taken into the account for incorporated entity. When we are seeing net worth, we are seeing it here that for the purpose of reckoning the net worth of the Indian party, the following. So this net worth, if I am a group of companies, I have my net worth is 100 crore and the net worth of my subsidiary is 100 crore. Can I club the net worth of my subsidiary as well and make the investment of 800 crore? So the regulation says yes, the net worth of following companies can be clubbed together to make the overall investment ODI investment. That is, net worth of its holding company can be clubbed. However, it is only if the holding is holding 51% direct stake in the party, or the net worth of subsidiary can be clubbed. It cannot happen that the subsidiary has also made the investment and the holding has also made the investment and both of them are clubbing also. So it should be undertaken that the limits have not been used by holding or subsidiary company independently, and the company needs to submit the letter of disclaimer in favor of the Indian party. See, Indian party is a party which is making the investment outside India. Now let us see this example. It is the example for calculation of net worth. We understand that that it is 400% of the net worth of the company. So the more the net worth of the company, the more the paid up capital plus free reserves of the company, the more investment can be made by Indian company outside India. So they would like to club, and it is allowed as per the regulations that the clubbing can happen of the net worth of the holding company as well as net worth of the subsidiary company. So in this example, we can see that wherein A Limited is desirous of making investment outside India, the net worth of XZ Limited will not be clubbed as the holding of X and Z is in A Limited is only 50%. So if you can see here, if it is 50%, then the net worth of A and net worth of B shall not be clubbed. So the total investment that can be made by A Limited to B Limited shall be limited to 4 times of 150 only. However, if the investment is held by the XY Limited in A Limited is beyond 50%, it is 51%. In that case, The net worth of XZ Limited can also be clubbed in AZ Limited, while A Limited makes the investment in B Limited. So the net worth of A Limited will get increased to 200. That means the investment that can be made by the A Limited to a company outside India, B Limited, shall get increased to 800. We've been seeing that if I take you down to the slide again, we saw that the financial commitment of Indian party in joint venture shall not exceed 400. What exactly is this financial commitment that we are talking here? This financial commitment that we are talking here is everything. Financial commitment is everything that is made, that has gone from India to the foreign party, to the party outside India. So the financial commitment includes the financial, just it includes equity. The financial commitment includes the equity that has been invested by the from the Indian party to outside India. It includes loan that has gone from India to the party outside India, to the foreign entity. It also includes guarantee that has been issued by the Indian parties to the joint overseas WOS. So everything, be it equity, be it loan, in any manner, you see, be it in any manner, it is included in the term financial commitment. So it cannot happen that we understand that the limitation is there till 400% of the net worth. So it cannot happen that that 400% of the net worth is going as equity and rest of the investment that the company wants to invest is going as a loan. So that is absolutely not allowed. In that manner, it shall be calculated, the whole sum of financial commitment is included of equity shares, compulsorily and mandatorily convertible preference shares, 100% of amount of other preference shares, even if it is not compulsorily convertible shares, even if it is not CCPS, in that case also it shall be included in making the financial commitment. 100% of amount of loan, 100% of amount of guarantee issued by the Indian party, 100% of bank guarantee issued by resident bank on behalf of joint venture or WOS of Indian party, provided the bank guarantee is backed by the counter guarantee collateral by the Indian party. 50%, all the above are included to 100%, the extent of 100%. However, if it is a performance guarantee, it is included as a only to the extent of 50%. So financial commitment, we are seeing that every form of remittance that can go, and also the contingent remittance that can happen in future by the Indian party to its JV or WOS. In that case, it is included in the financial commitment and it is limited to 400% of the net worth. Now, let us see this example, that in this case, an Indian company in the infrastructure sector. So there is this company in the infrastructure sector opened a subsidiary in Singapore under a global tender floated from Indian PSU. The Singapore subsidiary entity got a contract to execute an order in India. So the subsidiary of an Indian company, which is outside India, got an order to execute an order in India. The precondition, there was one condition that was there, that the award amount was required to be given as corporate guarantee by the Singapore entity. So 10% of the award amount. So usually that is what happened, that in government tenders, then you need to submit as a portion of the award as a earnest money. So this money was required to be submitted by the Singapore company. So Singapore company, instead of submitting it here, it approached the Indian PSU with a request to allow that it provide a guarantee through its Indian holding company. And the PSU agreed on that, okay, instead of Singapore company giving the guarantee, it's okay for me, I will accept the guarantee from your Indian parent company. Now, whether the guarantee which has been given by the Indian company for its Singapore subsidiary, will it be construed or will it be calculated for the calculation of financial commitment? It is not coming from outside India. It is that Indian company is giving the guarantee to an Indian PSU company on behalf of the Singapore entity, its Singapore subsidiary. Now, this guarantee, which was given by the Indian company to another Indian company on behalf of its subsidiary company, that guarantee will also be calculated in making of financial commitment, and therefore it needs the approval, it needs to be reported in form ODI. Now let us see an example of calculation of financial commitment. The B Limited is a company incorporated in USA. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of A Limited, an Indian company. There is a contract which is being executed by C Limited, for which the performance guarantee has been given to C Limited by A Limited. So there is a contract that is given to B Limited by C Limited, and of which the performance guarantee has been given on behalf of B Limited to C Limited by the Indian company A Limited. So I hope the facts are clear here. Now let's see how this financial guarantee will be calculated. A Limited, if has a net worth of equity contribution is 100. There is a loan that is being given by A Limited to B Limited as 50. Let's read 50 crore. And A Limited has also given the performance guarantee on behalf of B Limited to C Limited. So let's say it's 100 crore of guarantee, the amounting to 100 is given. So what is the total financial commitment of the Indian party? The total financial commitment of the Indian party will include 100 crore as equity, which has gone as equity, 50 crore, which has gone as loan, and also 50% of the performance guarantee. We had seen that if it is a performance guarantee, in that case, only 50% is included. It is not 100%. So the total financial commitment of Indian party is 200. How? Let us see how the investment can be made outside India. So we are seeing who can make the investment. We saw that Indian party can make the investment, resident can make the investment, trust can make the investment, trust and society can make the investment under approval route, or Indian party, if it is specifying, if it is making the investment under the specified limits, it can make the investment. Resident individual can make the investment till USD 2,50,000. So we have seen that, and we have seen that the what is the financial commitment. We have seen the limit to which Indian party can make the investment, which is limited to the 400% of the net worth. And we saw what is net worth in this case, and we also saw that the net worth of Indian party can be combined with the net worth of holding company and subsidiary company if they have more than 51%, as it may read. Now we are seeing, we had seen that the investment can be made in approval route as well as it can be made under automatic route. What do we mean by making an investment under automatic route? It means that only an intimation of investment is required to be given to authorized dealer bank in form FDI, ODI within 30 days of making the transaction from the date of transaction, and an annual form APR is also required to be submitted on an annual basis. It is required to be submitted on and before 31st of December every year. Any changes that happens after the investment has been made needs also to be informed to RBI. So under automatic route, only intimation is required in form ODI. Under automatic route, the application is required to be submitted to the AD bank, and we had seen the process in detail. Form ODI, it's a comprehensive form, and the structure is rationalized and revised, and it is made of parts. Predominantly part 1 and part 2 needs to be filled by the Indian party. Part 1 forms the following sections, under which section A, details of IP and resident individual needs to be given, and section B, capital structure needs to be mentioned. Section C, details of transaction, remittance and financial commitment of the parties needs to be mentioned. Under section D, it is declaration of IP and resident individuals. Under section E, it is certificate by the statutory auditor of the Indian party and self-declaration by the resident individual that is required. Part 2 of ODI deals with the annual performance report, and it constitutes of closure and winding up, also sale or transfer. So part 2 is annual performance report, wherein annual performance report is the report that is required to be submitted annually with the RBI by all the Indian parties on and before 31st of December, and it mentions about the annual. It needed to be submitted that the annual accounts of the subsidiary company needed to be submitted with that, and this needs to be submitted on an annual basis. Part 3 constitutes the report on disinvestment by way of if there is a disinvestment that gets reported in part 3. Also, if there is an investment outside India by an Indian party, an annual return on FLA is required to be submitted directly by all the Indian companies. So I'll just skip this. This is so we'll coming to the methods of funding. How an Indian party can actually fund itself. What are the funds it can use, or what are the funds it can avail to fund its overseas direct investment? So if it can be the following ways in which the overseas direct investment can be funded by the Indian party. It can purchase the funds from market. It can do it by capitalization of exports, by swap of shares, by ECB, by the proceeds of ECB in exchange of ADR and GDR, balances held in RFC and EEFC account, or ADR and GDR issues. So these are the mode of funding that an Indian party can avail while for making the investment outside India. So if Indian party, they can draw the foreign exchange and can file Form A2 with the AD bank and can make the investment. Also, the investment can be made by capitalization. What does it mean? Investment by capitalization. Investment by capitalization means that if an Indian party has to receive some amount from the foreign entity, in that case, it can convert that payable into the equity shares. It can be either the payment is receivable against the export of plant, machinery, equipment, or it can also be that the receivable are standing against foreign entity towards foreign entity for fees, royalties, commission, or other entitlements that are due to the Indian party from the foreign entity for supply of technical know-how, consultancy, managerial, or other services. So it's a very big window that has been given by the RBI, that a foreign investment by an Indian entity can also be made by through the capitalization of the receivables that are standing towards the foreign entity. However, it may be seen that we all know that the export proceeds needs to be realized within the period that has been specified by the RBI, which is 6 months in usual cases. Now, if the sale proceeds are not realized within 6 months, in that case, approval from AD Bank is required to be given, and after a certain time, the approval from RBI is required, and the necessary procedure needs to be followed. And also, in case the write-off is not allowed, and if the write-off happens, in that case the exporter needs to show that he has taken all due diligence, that he has tried to make the realize the export proceeds. So if the sale proceeds are unrealized for more than 6 months, in that case the prior approval from RBI is required to be taken, and this approval can be taken in the by making an application in form ODI. So an application is can be made in form ODI. Another way in which, and there is a procedure that has been specified that how this can be converted, the receivables can be converted. There is a specified procedure that has been given in the export regulations. Now, also the funding can happen by way of investment by swap of shares. We had seen that swap of shares is possible, that Indian company issuing the shares to the foreign entity and foreign entity issuing the shares to an Indian entity. Now, this was earlier allowed only under the government route. However, this was made under the automatic route by Press Note 12/2015. So there are certain conditions that are needed to be satisfied for investment by swap of shares. For example, there is a, if the sector is within the route, if the sector is within the government route, in that case approval from the government is required. However, if it is in automatic route, no approval from the government is required. Valuation in case of swap of shares, we had seen it while we were doing FDI regulations as well, NDI rules that we saw. We had seen that in case of swapping of shares that happens between an Indian company and a foreign entity, in that case, the certificate of valuation is required to be taken from the category 1 merchant banker, or it needs to be taken from the investment banker outside India, which is registered with the appropriate authority in the host country. An undertaking is required to be taken to the effect that future sale or transfer of shares so acquired by the non-resident in Indian company shall be in accordance with the notification 20, which has now been so it shall comply with the regulations, RBI regulations. The reporting needs to be done, appropriate reporting as is required in case of as is needs to be done in case of the swap of shares. Investment can also be funded by the external commercial borrowings. So, and the end use of external commercial borrowing, it can be seen that it is the end use is not prohibited, that the ECB borrowings cannot be used for making the investment outside India. So ECB, as per the ECB guidelines, means you can borrow from outside India to make investment outside India, and you can make the investment entity can make the investment as to the extent of 400% of its net worth. We have been seeing that the RFC account and EEFC account, what they can be used for whatever purpose it may be. It can be used for any purpose. We saw that that if the investment is made by resident individual out of RFC account, it falls under the journal permission. Similar to that, the investment can be funded by the amount that is held in EFC account. And we also saw that the amount that is held in EFC account is also not also considered for making for calculating the net worth of 400%. So that is over and above the 400% of net worth. So it can be funded. The investment that the Indian party intends to make in foreign entity can be funded by the EFC account as well. Investment can also be funded by the ADR and GDR issued. So an Indian company may acquire shares of the foreign company engaged in bona fide business activity in exchange of ADRs and GDR issued to the Indian company in accordance with the guidelines. There is another way of funding the overseas investment, that is leveraged buyout. Under this, what happens that the Indian company, instead of making a direct investment, it makes the SPV in between, and it makes an investment in the subsidiary through that SPV, through that special purpose vehicle. So this is a manner under which the SPV is created, and portion of funding is arranged through the overseas bank on the loan being secured by the shares or assets of the target company, and the guarantee being given by the parent company. So this is one of the mode that is often used to use the various modes of funding by the Indian entities, Indian party. Now, what we can see that when more than one Indian party makes an investment in the foreign entity, the investment made by all the one entity and in the for one Indian party, in the second Indian party, in third Indian party, all the investment will constitute to be the total investment. What are the preconditions of the making overseas direct investment? The JV and WOS is for the bona fide business activity. It cannot be in the sector which is prohibited for investment. IP, not the Indian party which is making the investment is not in the caution or defaulter list of the RBI. The Indian party has submitted all the APRs for all overseas investment, and all the transactions have to be routed on through one AD bank only. So it cannot happen that some remittance is going through one AD bank, one remittance is going through the other AD bank. AD bank issues the unique identification number for the transaction, and it has to be quoted in all the future correspondence with regard to that transaction. And the JVs are not allowed to be set up in the countries that are not FATF compliant, or we can non-cooperative countries and territories by FATF. Now, what is FATF? FATF is an intergovernmental body. It's an independent body which rates the various countries, and those countries which do not support terror funding and money laundering, they are placed in the gray list by the FATF. So the investments are not allowed to be in the countries which are considered to be non-cooperative and by the FATF. Valuation requirement by ODI investment. If the investment that is going out of India, if the investment that is going out of India is more than is more than 5 million. In that case, the certificate from registered merchant banker, which is category 1 merchant banker, is required to be undertaken. And if in all other cases, it can be taken by a chartered from the chartered accountant or a certified public accountant. It can be taken by the CPA. ODI in financial services sector. So these are the conditions which needs to be satisfied in case the investment is made in the financial service sector. So I'm leaving this for you to read. Loans and guarantees by the Indian party. Now, the loan, whether the Indian party, that is the Indian party can give loans to the, whether the Indian party can give loan to the foreign entity, whether the loan can be given by the Indian party to the foreign entity. So the loan cannot be given by the Indian party to the foreign entity. It can be given only to those overseas and joint venture companies, joint venture subsidiary, joint venture or WOS in which there is an equity participation. However, if there is on a case-to-case basis, even if there is no equity participation, an application can be made to RBI for approving the loan, for approval of the loan. Now let us see this example. A Limited is an Indian company which has 100% equity capital into B Limited, which is a Singapore-based company. B Limited has in turn 100% equity contribution in C Limited, that is another company in Singapore. In this case, whether the loan A Limited, let us see whether the A Limited can extend loan to B Limited. A Limited can have 100% equity in B Limited. B Limited has 100% equity in C Limited. Whether there is here, whether A Limited can acquire shares, can give loan to B Limited, whether A Limited can give loan to C Limited. Let us see here. So for lending loan to A to B, that is allowed because A Limited has an equity contribution is B Limited. Now B Limited, although B Limited has 100% equity in C Limited, A Limited does not have direct equity contribution in C Limited. A Limited has no contribution in C Limited. For extending loan from A Limited to C Limited, which is another company outside India, in that case, the approval from Reserve Bank of India is required. Conversion of loan into equity, whether the loan that has been given by the Indian entity, Indian company to the JV or WS, whether it can be converted into equity. So yes, the loan can be converted into equity. However, if the conversion is leading to the is making the amount, for example, the conversion is happening wherein the loan was of 100 crore and the equity instruments that are getting issued are amounting to 50 crore. In that case, the approval from Reserve Bank of India is required. So conversion can happen. However, if the conversion is leading to depreciation in the value of investment, in that case, the approval from Reserve Bank of India is required. guarantee by Indian party. Whether Indian party can give guarantee on behalf of its subsidiary outside India. So there may be that the subsidiary can be of first level and there can be a subsidiary of the second level. Maybe there will be step down subsidiaries. So if it is a subsidiary of first level, that is SDN SDS1 level, in that case corporate guarantee can be extended. However, in case of subsequent level subsidiary, in that case the approval from RBI is required, and the Indian party should minimum hold 51% or more stake. Rollover of guarantee, so we'll just, it's just the conditions, whether the guarantee rollover, the renewal or rollover of existing or original guarantee that is part of the total FC shall be regarded as a fresh financial commitment. So will it be regarded as a fresh financial commitment? It will be regarded, it shall be regarded, it shall not be regarded as a financial commitment, fresh financial commitment, only if these conditions are satisfied. So we had seen that the guarantee are included in calculation of financial commitment. If there is a renewal of that guarantee, whether that will be included in the fresh financial commitment. So it will not be included in the fresh financial commitment if the existing or original guarantee was issued in terms of the existing extant and prevailing FEMA guidelines. There is no change in the end use. There is no change in terms and condition. Reporting has, and it has been reported in ODI Part 1. And if IP is under the investigation by any investigation or enforcement agency, and the concerned agency shall be kept informed about the same. If any of these conditions are not met, then RBI approval is required. Now, pledge of share or creation of charge, whether the shares that has been acquired by the Indian company under the overseas direct investment, whether it can be used, to take loan, whether those shares can be pledged to take the facility. So pledge of shares of the wholly owned subsidiary by the Indian party in favor of overseas lender, whether it can be given as a security to overseas lender, whether it can be given as a security to domestic lender. Now to overseas lender to provide loan outside India or to provide loan in India. In favor of domestic lender, whether to provide loan outside India, to provide loan in India. The second name is pledging of shares of the step down subsidiary. So the pledge of shares of step down subsidiary in favor of overseas lender, or it can be that an Indian company, an Indian party pledging the shares to Indian bank to take loan in India. It can pledge, so there can be these many permutation combination, and all of them are allowed. All this is allowed. Let us see what is allowed. If the Indian party is pledging the shares to Indian financial institution, Indian financial institution can give, pledging the shares of whom? Pledging the shares of joint venture or wholly owned subsidiary. If Indian party is pledging the shares of wholly owned subsidiary to the AD Bank in India, first, whether it can pledge, whether an Indian party can pledge its shares which are of outside India entity, which is of the outside entity which is outside India, whether it can pledge the shares to financial institution in India. Yes, it can pledge the shares to financial institution in India, and that institution can give the loan to Indian party, as well as it can provide to loan to the joint venture which is outside India. So it can provide loan to the joint venture on wholly owned subsidiary of the Indian party, as well as to the step down subsidiary. Now, the Indian party can pledge the shares The dotted lines are showing how the pledging is happening. Indian party can pledge the shares to the overseas lender. That overseas lender in turn can provide loan to the step down subsidiary, to the joint venture, or to it can also, the Indian party can take the loan for itself as well to the Indian. So this everything is permissible. All these transactions are permissible to subject it to few conditions, and those conditions are like that the loan is co-terminus with the existing loan. It should not be that the loan is it is subjected to the conditions that has been specified. We'll see those conditions, because every for each of these categories of pledging of shares and taking of loan, it is different. Now, sale of shares of joint venture and WOS, there may be exit, that is sale of shares of joint venture is allowed. However, if there is a write-off, let us see here. Sorry. Sale of shares of joint venture and WS is allowed if joint venture or WS is listed on overseas stock exchange. The Indian party is listed on, we will park it here, we'll see it. We'll see it in a while. It has been covered later on. So before sale, let us see if the balance sheet of JV and WOS of listed companies can be of the JV and WOS can be done by the Indian party. This is another area wherein lot of non-compliance happens. Lots and lots of non-compliance happen. Now, if there is a write-off that requires to be done of the JV or WS investment that has been done by the Indian party, whether it can be done. So many times we have seen that the companies are doing the write-off without intimating RBI, without taking approval of RBI. So the approval of RBI is required. Let us see that if the restructuring of balance sheet is required to be done by listed Indian party, in that case, the listed Indian party can do the write-off of what? It can do the write-off of capital, both equity and preference, and of receivables only to the extent of 25% of the equity investment. If it is more than 25%, in that case, approval from RBI is required so it will approval from RBI will be required. So a write-off of the receivables or the capital can be done by the listed company under automatic route if it is limited to 25% of the equity investment in the JV or WOS. And this needs to be reported to the RBI within 30 days of restructuring. However, if the restructuring, if the write-off is happening by the unlisted company, first of all, it can write off the capital and other receivables. If the write-off is, it can do it beyond 25, it can do it to the extent of 25% of equity investment under approval route. It needs the approval from the Reserve Bank of India to write off the amount, that it will not be able to receive this much of amount that was standing receivables. So any investment, any writing of investment that is happening by the unlisted company, it can be done only till 25%, and that too under the approval route. Any change that you are doing in your balance sheet, that you are writing off the amount, that it will not be received, it is not receivable, the so we are getting the clients wherein they made the investment in US in the online gifting company, made the huge losses, and they could not sustain, the US company, and they closed the company. They written off everything in the Indian company without taking any permission from RBI, without intimating anything to the AD bank. So that kind of activities are not allowed. We need to inform and take approval from RBI when it is restructuring or when it is writing off of any capital, or also receivable that are standing from the JV or WOS. Obligation of Indian party, what we are discussing, who can invest, how he can invest, in what he can invest, whether an Indian party can give loan or not. Now, what are the obligations of Indian party who have invested? What are the obligations of Indian party? No Indian party I have seen that which receives the certificate within 6 months. So every Indian party who has made the investment, they are under obligation that it should receive the certificate, share certificate of such investment within 6 months. It is obligation of the Indian party that the repatriation of the funding, or the repatriation of whatever is receivable from the from the foreign entity, it is received within 60 days of its falling due. So if it has been, either you do one thing, that you do not declare the dividend in your subsidiary company. However, if the dividend has been declared, or if you are charging royalty from your subsidiary company and it is falling due every month, so it has to be received within 60 days of its falling due. If it is not received within 60 days, it shall tantamount to the contravention of FEMA. The Indian party has to file annual performance report every year with the Reserve Bank of India before 31st of December each year, and it has to be based on the last audited annual accounts of JV and WOS, unless there is a ex-Indian company can sell the shares to wide Indian company subject to the conditions as may be applicable. Now, the exit can be in two manner, with write-off or without write-off. That means when you are exiting, the amount that is coming back to India, the amount that is repatriated back to India, that is whether it is same amount or it is less amount. It may be same or more, that is without write-off, or it can be with write-off. Now, without write-off, if the amount is coming more or same, but out of, if when the Indian entity is exiting out of the foreign country, in that case, an account can be without write-off. However, it is subjected to the following conditions. The sale does not result in any write-off of investment made. That means it should not be with any write-off. The sale is effected through stock exchange where the shares of overseas JV are listed. If the shares are not listed, in that case, the shares are disinvested by private arrangement, and the share price is not less than the value certified by a CA or a CP as a fair value of shares based on latest audited balance sheet. The Indian party does not have any outstanding as a due, and the overseas concern has been in operation for at least 1 full year, and the annual performance report has been fully submitted. So if these compliances are not done, there the write-off the exit cannot happen by the disinvestment, cannot happen by the Indian party is required to submit the details of disinvestment within 30 days. And if case the transfer is happening, the transfer, the condition relating to transfer needs to be satisfied. Otherwise, a prior approval of FDI, the RBI is required. So we are seeing this example. A Limited is a company which is an Indian unlisted company. It has subscribed to the shares of B Limited, a company incorporated in USA. Now the investment value is less than 10 million, and B Limited has commenced operation in October 2019. Now A Limited, can it sell the shares to B Limited? Can the A Limited sell shares and exit the investment by selling the shares to C Limited, that is another Indian company? So the prior approval is required in this case because the condition, as we saw, that the overseas concern has been in operation for at least 1 full year. So overseas concern, the overseas entity, that is B Limited, in this case has not been in function for the full year. Therefore, the investment, the transfer of shares of B Limited from A company to C Limited shall require prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. Now, what if the investment is with write-off? What if the investment is with write-off? See, investment with write-off will not be possible without the approval of Reserve Bank of India. Disinvestment with write-off will not be permitted without approval of Reserve Bank of India, except in these following cases. So what are these following cases? That where the amount repatriated after disinvestment is less than original amount invested. In case the Indian party may disinvest without prior approval of Reserve Bank of India in any case of the under-noted cases where the amount of repatriated after disinvestment is less than the original amount invested. So what are these cases? That if the JV is a listed entity overseas, investment out is a listed entity in the overseas stock exchange. If in case Indian party is listed on stock exchange, and the net worth, so there are dual conditions, and the net worth also is not less than 100 crore. If the Indian party is unlisted party, if the investment in the overseas venture does not exceed USD 10 million. Now, where the Indian party is listed company with net worth of less than 100 crore, but investment in the overseas. So in these cases, the Indian party may disinvest without the approval of Reserve Bank of India. In all other cases, the Reserve Bank, it is required that approval from Reserve Bank of India is taken. So you can see that in case the investment amount, in case the which is coming to India is less than the original amount invested, in that case, it is permissible only in few cases that it can come without the approval of Reserve Bank of India. In all other cases, the Reserve Bank of approval from Reserve Bank of India is required. What are these cases? That joint venture is listed outside India, or the Indian entity is a listed entity and has a net worth of not less than 100 crore. And in case of an unlisted company, the investment in overseas venture does not exceed US 10 million. And in case the listed entity has a net worth of below 100 crore, but the investment in overseas investment does not exceed 10 million. So these are the. Now another thing that is there in is round tripping. Now whether the investment, sorry, whether these type of investments are allowed to be made by the Indian entity, whether these type of investment are allowed to be made by Indian entity. So what are these type? Let me just show you what are the investment that we are talking about. Indian company investing into WOS outside India, and that WOS in turn investing into another Indian company. Whether this transaction is allowed. Indian company investing in WOS outside India, and that that subsidiary, that foreign entity outside India, in turn investing in an Indian company. Or it can be another structure, Indian company investing in WOS, that WOS in turn investing in the step down subsidiary, that subsidiary investing in the Indian company. So it's like this is direct structure wherein the Indian company is investing through its subsidiary outside India in another Indian company. This is an indirect structure wherein Indian company is investing in a foreign company, and that foreign company in turn is investing in another foreign company, and that foreign entity now investing in another Indian company. Now, whether this type of a structure is possible or is allowed. So there is nothing that disallows that, or there is nothing that is there in the on the round tripping in the regulations. However, in FAQ 66 of the on the ODI, it specifically says that dealing with it specifically says that such an funding of Indian company through another Indian company shall not be allowed. So what does it says? That it does not permit an Indian company to set up an Indian subsidiary through its foreign WOS, nor do the provision permit an IP to acquire a WOS that already has a direct or indirect investment in India under the automatic route. So this type of structures are not permissible, wherein the Indian company has an investment in foreign entity and the foreign entity has in turn invested in another Indian company. So these type of structures are not permissible. However, the permission from RBI can be taken. Permission from RBI can be taken on a case-to-case basis, and RBI can give the approval for that. So this is all that we have in the ODI investment. We have seen what are the provisions that governs the ODI investment, that is an investment by an Indian entity to outside India, an investment by an Indian entity outside India. What are the provisions that, what are the, let me just, so we have seen that what are the provisions that regulate the investment by an Indian entity into the overseas, into a foreign entity. These are the regulations that we saw. We saw that no entity can invest except for the way in which it has been mentioned in the regulations. We saw what are the routes of investment. We saw what is net worth and financial commitment. We saw whether the guarantee can be given by Indian company, what are the obligations of Indian party. We saw the methods of funding. In methods of funding, we saw various methods that are allowed through which the funding can be done. That is, we can draw the foreign exchange, the capitalization of export proceeds can be done. The funding can also be done through ECB. It is allowed only till 25% in case of listed company under automatic route, and it is allowed in case of unlisted company to 25% under approval route. So I'm seeing for anything which is left to be discussed, if there is something. So I think we have discussed everything. Now we'll so we have we are done with the ODI regulations, and I would request that if you have any questions, kindly be free to. There were few.
Madam, you may please refer to the chat box wherein there are 1 or 2 questions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there are reply also, which is correct replies that we had on the questions. For how long APR needs to be filed for ODI? Till the time ODI is there, the investor needs to file the ODI. So if you see, the other question is if the investor in disinvested
I think we have a sort of internet connection problem at madam's side. Maybe we shall hold on for a minute or two so that we'll be resuming the audio from the madam. Yeah, participants, please hold on. We have an unstable connection at Sudha madam's end. We shall wait a minute or two and check if her connection resumes. Also, her presentation part is complete and we are into the Q&A session. Madam is browsing through the chat boxes and checking if there are any questions that needs to be answered. In the meantime, we have lost the connection with her. Let's check if she reconnects. Okay, friends, we will do one thing. We will sign off for today as the session was complete. And if there are any unanswered questions in the chat box, we shall. Madam, I think you have reconnected. Yeah, please unmute yourself.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I got disconnected. Let me take the questions.
Yeah. I think you might have lost the chat box, madam. I think.
Yeah, I have. Can you allow me to share my screen because it is coming then?
Okay,
Can you
no
allow
issue.
me to share? No, it's not getting shared. I think you have to give me the permission. You have to make me the co-host.
Okay. Okay, madam. Now you are made co-host.
Okay. No, sir, I cannot see the.
Yes. Once
I cannot.
what I understand is once you are out of the session, you will lose the chat box.
Yeah. So
Madam,
and
there was one question from Satish, CA Satish, who said that an Indian company made investment in B company in USA.
yes, sir.
B company made a loss. What is the procedure? Did you answer that question, madam?
No. B company made the loss.
Yes, sir.
The
Indian company made investment in B company. B company is in US.
Okay.
B company made a loss. What is the procedure? That's
Yes.
what his question.
So yes. So if B company has made loss, in that case, you there is writing off of the investment that is happening. So writing off of investment is happening in this case. So they have to follow the guidelines. If the company is falling within the specified, only few there are, if there are write off, this amounts to write off of capital. Now if it amounts to writing off of capital, in that case either it has to fall into the specified type of companies that we had seen, otherwise it will need the approval from RBI. So in usual cases, any writing off, if B company has made the loss, in that case, and you want to disinvest, otherwise if B company has made the loss and you will recover that loss in a later years, you don't have to worry. Only in APR the annual performance of the company needs to go, and it can be either loss or it can be profit, it does not matter. However, at the time of disinvestment, if it is loss, if the amount that is coming to India is lesser than the amount that was invested, in that case, if it is not falling in the type of companies which have been given the advantage, it will need the approval from RBI. So for example, if it is a listed company and it has a net worth of more than 100 crore, in that case, nothing is required to be done. So if it is falling in those type of companies, it can, otherwise the approval from RBI will be required.
Yeah, moving on, CA Manoj states that restrictions under Company Act 2013, there is a restriction in Company Act 2013 that more than 2 step-down subsidiaries, with regard to 2 step-down subsidiaries.
Okay, that's a statement he is making.
Yeah, actually, maybe in the course of your deliberations, he might have got that type of restriction.
Yeah.
Okay,
So in this case, we have to see that if a company is incorporated under Companies Act, if a company is Indian company, then even if then it has to follow Companies Act as well. And wherever there are this was regarding, ma'am said, investment in multiple subsidiaries. Multiple subsidiaries in the manner 1, 2, and 3, like in A Limited, B Limited, and C Limited. So we were not talking about the step down subsidiaries there.
Fine. Moving on, another question. For how long APR need to be filed for ODI? If the investor disinvested, but part of the profits are withheld for taxes overseas, is the investor need to file APR till it receives its last dollar? It means last dollar.
So I had to reply to this question. I think it got missed and I kept speaking maybe. So if you can see here that it cannot happen. So one of the requirement of disinvestment is that you have to receive in India whatever was receivable from the foreign entity. So no disinvestment can happen before you have received everything. So what is suggested, that whatever is taxes that needs to be paid, you pay them first, receive the profits in India, receive the capital in India, and then only go for disinvestment. It cannot happen. Otherwise, if you have kept some funds in outside India, in that case, it will tend amount to contravention of FEMA.
Okay, madam. Next question is from the previous question was from CA CT Chaudhary, and this question is from CA Siddharth. one company owned by NRI promoters has given a corporate guarantee on behalf of
Sir, you can also copy paste it now. I will be able to read it.
Yeah, that will be fine. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. And I'll take this. The definition of net worth does not count accumulated losses. Is the company having accumulated loss will also be counted on par with the companies not having accumulated loss for the limits of ODI. So the net worth is, it does not say if the company is having accumulated loss. It basically depends on the net worth. And it may happen that the net worth of the company is still positive. So it does not say that the company with the accumulated losses cannot invest. One company owned by NRI promoter has given a corporate guarantee on behalf of unincorporated entity controlled by the same promoter. Okay, let me just see it here. So this thing cannot happen only. This the person cannot give the corporate guarantee. The person NRI, he cannot give the corporate guarantee and on behalf of unincorporated entity in UAE. So it cannot happen. However, it is such a transaction that it will affect the FEMA provision only if the corporate guarantee is invoked. Only it will affect the remittance of foreign exchange only if corporate guarantee is invoked. However, this type of a corporate guarantee cannot be given by the NRI promoter on behalf of the unincorporated entity which is controlled by the same promoter in UAE. So this cannot happen, and the question of ODI does not come. Okay, so very valid question. What is the difference between 100% and 400% of Indian party in ODI? As we were discussing right now, for our reading, 100% is nothing. You can forget about 100%. 100% is nothing. Right now, it is 400%. So what we have understood that foreign investment outside India, the overseas investment outside India can happen up to a limit prescribed by the Reserve Bank of India. So that limit keeps on changing on the prudence of Reserve Bank of India, basis the capital account situation, basis the forex situation. If they do not want to remit too much of money outside India, they keep on changing that limit, that how much can you remit outside India. So they keep on changing the limits. So it happens with all the limits. So you know LRS limit, that is 2,50,000. So that also can be changed to the lower limit. So this 400% is the limit that is prescribed by RBI, and it keeps changing, though not too often. I have seen that it was changed to 100% in the past only once. It was restored to 400%. So from the time I have seen ODI regulation, in fact, so ODI regulations had been signed by the past Deputy Governor of RBI, that is Ms. Shamla ma'am, Shamla Gopinath ma'am. So those are my favorite regulations, because my book is also forwarded by her. So that's close to. So we were talking about the 100% and 400%. Forget 400%. It is just the limit. Right now, it is 400%. So please don't get confused between 100% to 400%. It is the limit that is prescribed by RBI. In the past, it was reduced to 100%. However, it has been restored to 400% presently. And if in the presentation it was 100% somewhere, please kindly read it as 400% only.
Madam, I think we are through the questions in the chat. We have exhausted all the questions, I think. Do you find any more questions, madam, in that?
I'm also reading. Yeah, I think we are done.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. And one more thing, if you permit me to remind you, yesterday LRS we have skipped, I think. We did not find time to go through LRS. So are you planning LRS tomorrow?
Yes, sir. LRS, we'll start with LRS, then
Okay.
we will take up ECB, and then we can, yeah, there is one more question from Mr. Manoj. Manojji, please raise it. We are here only. So we will start with LRS, we will take up ECB, and then we will take up the questions. So there were many questions also that were raised. And then we will see the various type of structuring that are there, what are the mistakes companies do, and we will try to look more FEMA from more of practical point of view. More questions we will see. And we will also go through the due diligence. We will see the draft report, how it is framed, how it is how it is I mean, we will go through the draft report, and we will try to see the compounding also, and we will take up all the remaining items tomorrow.
Yeah, Manoj posted his question.
Can Mr. A, Indian, purchase shares of Hong Kong company from Mr. B? Okay, yes, this can happen. That the resident can take the shares from Mr. B, and he is a PIO who is resident in Hong Kong. Any particular reason that you are asking this? And Hong Kong, is it any, if there are any specific conditions with regard to Hong Kong? Because Hong Kong and this China and all, there are, okay. Yeah, even I am just thinking that whether the acquisition of shares can happen directly by, I'll get back to you. Mr. Mehta, I'll get back to you on this. We'll take it tomorrow. As such, it should be possible, but however, let it be more clear on that. I will do that. So, Mr. Chaudhary, yes, we will take up section 37A tomorrow once again.
Okay, madam. Thank you very much. We will sign off for today. I thank all the participants for participating in today's session, and may I also request you to participate in the tomorrow's session also with the same enthusiasm and zeal. Thank you. We will sign off for today. Good night, everyone. See you tomorrow.